Hi, this is Bruce Simula, Blue Sky Video Productions. So we had some delays and our regular scheduled guest could not make it today. So we're going to treat you to a special encore episode of Kim Garst, How to Be a Powerful Influencer. So stick around. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. We're still going to monitor the comments. So if you have any comments, we will respond back to that. So thank you much. And on with the show. And with Blue Sky Video Production, directly here on location, just finishing up a video shoot. So we still had to adhere to our schedule, so we didn't want to miss you on this day. And actually today we have a very special guest. I've known Kim for a number of years, and she's a wonderful, wonderful person. And she knows Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and she not only knows it all, she's done it all. So, and she's a very young, 30 years old. So, and again, our guests are fantastic. They're always young at heart, because social media kind of is a young at heart process. Like either way, that, and let's get into the show. And bringing on. Great. Hi, Kim. How's it going?
Hey, I love that you said I'm a young 30. Like I tell people all the time, I'm 29 and holding. So, you know, that fits right in with my story. That's my story and I'm telling it, right?
Actually, I think with these filters that we're using these days, we can almost pass for 29 or 39.
Exactly. You know, it all like until you start telling people how old your children are, and then they're like, how old are you?
Yeah. My mother is currently 22 years old. She's had 22 birthdays.
There you go. She's holding.
So actually, she was born on leap year. So.
And it looks like Jonathan says he's 28.5. So we're in good company here.
Yep. Yeah, Jonathan's a great friend of mine. I've actually met him. How did I meet Jonathan? Actually, Jonathan I met through a video shoot, and the client called him in to give him a second viewpoint because Jonathan produces TV shows. Speaking of meeting people, let's talk about how we met. Actually, I'm not sure if you know the full story, because it started off on Periscope. You had pretty much claimed the territory, and everybody was following you at the same time. And then you had announced that you're coming to Chicago. And with that, I sent you some direct messages like, hey, I'm a videographer. I'm in Chicago. I can help out. And I got no response out of that. And I sent it through Facebook. And then I think you reached out to someone here in Chicago looking for a recommendation. And she recommended me.
That is bizarre. No, I didn't know that sorry that we didn't respond. That's not normal around here. We try to respond. But it all worked out, right?
Yep. Well, I think I was persistent. I think the saying goes that there's a difference between persistence and stalking. At least that's what And
connections, you know, it's fascinating how you know, people know certain people, and then it was meant to be. Let's put it that way. It was meant to be.
I think also it's because you're accessible even now, after you've got over 1 million followers across your platforms.
Yeah,
people. I reached out to you, and
yeah, I have always felt that, like, you know, I'm just the same as the day I started this journey. It wasn't intentional. You know, I didn't set out to be an influencer. I set out to, you know, just be value-based and, you know, build a community that I could serve. And it has just grown. So it really wasn't, it wasn't intentional when I got started. Let's just put it that way.
But so how did you discover Periscope in the early days, or did it come out? Because I know Meerkat had launched earlier that year.
Yes.
And then everybody pre-announced that Periscope was coming. And I know you jumped on that.
Yes, I was speaking at Social Media Marketing World when Periscope was announced. And it was kind of funny because everybody was checking it out. And that was my first experience, literally, was we were on our way to one of the networking events. And a friend of mine, we opened it up. We're like, let's check this out. And literally we were probably showing our nose hairs because we were, looking down at it, like, like, what is this? Like, what's happening here? So that was kind of my first experience with it. And I was one of those people, you videoed me before, so like I'm a perfectionist when it comes to, or at least I was then. Now I don't stress over it anymore. But I probably was one of those people who would have said, never, ever would I embrace live video. Simply because I couldn't control the environment, couldn't control what I was going to say. But what really sold me on it was the fact that I could open up my phone and go live, and hundreds of people would show up. Like I compared that to a webinar where you would go through all the bells and whistles to try to get everything set up and get people to say yes to come, and then you would do the webinar and a small fraction of people would actually show up, so you're like, well, crud, like all you have to do is like open up your phone and people come. Like that sold me on at least continuing to put time and effort into it. But really what I was fascinated by was the opportunity to really talk with people in real time. So in social media, as you post something, and some people will say stuff, most people don't. They might like it, but there's no real conversation happening. And I felt like with live video that gave me the opportunity to see somebody's comment, respond in the moment. They could see that I saw them. And just built a deeper connection, or the know, like, and trust factor, as I call it, very rapidly. So that's really what is it not only was then, but it is now too. What really drives me is having that connection and being able to talk to people.
So actually, Jonathan asked a question. I'm not sure if we actually explained this. What do you do? Who are you? Because I kind of introduced you as a social media mogul, social media guru. How would you define yourself?
So, Jonathan, I have been an online business owner for almost 30 years, and my businesses I've had a number of seven-figure businesses over the years. My current business is helping people generate more money in their online business using digital and social media. That's kind of my elevator speech. And that comes in a lot of different formats, but I primarily focus on list building through the mechanisms of digital and social media, course development, things that are going to generate additional revenue that are directly tied to adding more revenue in their business. Live video, I'm a huge fan of it. I teach it, I promote it, so anything that really is a part of my skill set that helps people generate revenue, I'm all about sharing it. I love sharing knowledge.
Yeah, so speaking of sharing knowledge, let's take a look at some of your blog posts here. And we see here, this is just one of blogs. Now, how often do you post your blogs? And so this is like 5 ways to live on Facebook. Here's a similar one, streaming apps. One of those is actually StreamYard, which is what we're using. And then even to this extent, 35 business tools for today's entrepreneurs. And that's only a snippet of the hundreds of blog posts that you have. How do you do it? Do you have a team, or do you do it yourself? Do you ever sleep? Is a question.
So I do have a team, and I had to learn that the hard way, by the way. I used to do everything by myself. My skill sets are so wide. I've been online for so long that I literally can do pretty much anything. I can edit a video to the degree that a professional editor could, probably not. But the fact that I can do certain things has been honestly a hindrance for me, because I was like, oh, I'll just do that. Or, oh, I'll just do that. And I ended up getting down in the weeds a lot. So my current business, I was very focused on building a team and really having the opportunity to step up and drive the business from a creative perspective versus always being in the weeds of my business. So my team is about 16, and we do try to post a new blog post at least every week, sometimes twice a week, and sometimes it's every other week, depending on what's happening. But most of the time it's every week. And we try to keep our content updated too. So you'll see a lot of our content, come back through perhaps that needs to be updated, because in the social media space, things change. Things evolve, and you have to keep your content updated. So we do some of that as well. But yeah, the blog itself is a huge traffic source for me.
Yeah. So again, a lot of your stuff is evergreen. And I remember when we first met, we actually did an interview. Do you remember talking about Twitter? And actually, I got a short clip here of when we talked about Twitter search, which is something that people don't usually often use.
For example, if you're a realtor and you're looking for people who are wanting to move to New York, for example, you can type in moving to New York, specific zip codes, and you can actually find people having conversations around that key phrase in a specific area.
Yeah, so that is something. You look at the same age. You look the same now that you did then. That was like 5-6 years ago.
I guess it's just good genes, I don't know, but 29 and holding, I'm saying, but yeah, the fascinating thing about social media, and whether it's Twitter or Pinterest or Instagram or whatever, there's so many data points and so much information out there that we have at our fingertips. It's just a matter of leveraging those platforms and in a way that you find the conversations that are around your business or the problem you solve, or in some cases it's even people talking directly about you. The conversations are happening whether you're there or not, which means you need to be there, and leveraging these platforms in a way that you can find the conversations and be active in those, being a part of those. They drive business if you're smart about it. And all of them have the ability to do that. In the past, we've not had access to stuff like this when it, pre social media, and now it's almost too much information, and most of us don't know how to go about really leveraging social media smartly. But I really feel like if you just really keyed in on understanding that you can find your person, your ideal client, your ideal customer on social media by just listening, paying attention to the conversations.
Yeah, because I noticed a lot on Twitter is people are always posting. And if you ever look through their engagement, you get 0 likes and 0 retweets, but they're still consistently posting. Yeah. And then if you flip it, and I think this is almost what I did when I first contacted you, is I followed you, I understood who you are, I understood your market, I understood your needs before I approached you. And on Twitter, using that search function, you can find your subject matter.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think with Twitter, I think a lot of people think that Twitter is kind of a dead platform. I would disagree in the context of how people are using it. It's more of a media outlet almost these days, which means content thrives there. People are searching for content and connection and, that kind of thing. Whereas not as much as it used to be from a conversation standpoint, but definitely from an information standpoint. And in finding those opportunities to connect, to find your person talking about or looking for what you have to offer is a smart way to use Twitter right now.
Yeah, so it's kind of like what I sometimes refer to with hashtags is for search and discovery.
Yes.
So you can search for what you're looking for using the hashtags, but also be discovered the same way. Because if you have a generic or a general topic that you address, you can use that hashtag. At the same time, use a branded hashtag. So if they're looking for you specifically, they find your content.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think also with events like Social Boom or BU, hashtag BU.
Yeah. See, hashtag be you back here. So I noticed that Norman was asking a question about, he says, I have a great deal of success on LinkedIn. What is your feeling about Facebook for business or B2B? I feel like there's a reemergence or a resurgence, maybe is a better way of saying it, when it comes to interest on LinkedIn. It's kind of an interesting dynamic, and I'm not sure why it's always been there, but I think a lot of people are really focusing on LinkedIn right now because of the fact that people that are on LinkedIn are there for business. They're not there to look at their neighbor's kids' birthday party photos, whereas with Facebook, there's a lot of things that are competing for attention there. And I think the opportunity with LinkedIn Live, not everybody has it yet, but that's still added a real big advantage for those of us that have it. And so I think there's a real deeper appreciation. I'll certainly be that, put myself in that pile when it comes to LinkedIn. But to directly answer your question about Facebook, Facebook is what I call a gift that keeps on giving for pretty much every business. Is it getting harder? Yes, but it doesn't mean your person's not there. I think for most of us, our person is there because that's kind of like the grandfather of social media platforms, and they are evolving very quickly. They are staying on top of things. They're continuing to understand the social platform and for all their problems, they are still evolving and they're not getting stale. And so from that perspective, how do you leverage Facebook more smartly? I'll say it's smart, from a work smarter, not harder. Facebook pages these days are really hard because it's just hard to get our content in front of our fans there. So I think there's other opportunities though, maybe Facebook groups or absolutely ads. I mean, if you can, even if you have a small budget, I really feel like Facebook ads are for literally any business, and you can use them for literally anything. It's not always just to sell something. You could, obviously the end goal would be to sell something, but you could, if you have a blog post that you want to, really draw some attention to, you can use Facebook ads for that. So there are some ways to really key in your marketing efforts on Facebook.
Excellent. And then going back to Scott's earlier question is, are you participating in distance learning in any way? Basically asking, but you do webinars, you do your lives. Your lives are pretty much distance learning. And then you also have classes or preset modules that they can buy into?
Yes, correct. So it's kind of fascinating, Jonathan. So my master's degree is actually in distance education, and I've never used it directly in that connotation, meaning I don't work at a university, right? In a traditional learning environment. That's maybe a better way of saying it. But I have leveraged my my knowledge to what I feel like is one of my zones of genius, if you will, is taking the complex and making it simple. So when I train or teach people how to do things, my focus is to okay, can I streamline this to a degree that they can learn it online and yet actually implement and take action on stuff? So I try to take the complex and make it simple. And I do that through training courses. Sometimes it's training courses, sometimes it's webinars. Sometimes it's, I've moved my model more to a done with you. So a lot of my recent courses, especially since COVID, has been what I would call a done with you model, where we meet inside of a Facebook group, the content is delivered in that group, and they get feedback on the spot. We have learning environments where they can ask questions. So it's more like a traditional classroom. And that has really made a huge difference for my students, because that one-on-one attention has given them the opportunity to actually get the personalized attention that they need versus just taking a course and, trying to figure it out on their own. And I think there's a big need for that right now. Not from just the perspective of, having that feedback, but also from the connection standpoint, being a part of a community of people who are on the same road. It has been a beautiful thing. So to answer your question, yes, I guess I do distance learning through a variety of different mechanisms.
Yeah, because again, you also had your conferences. You had the Boom Social conferences. And actually, speaking of which, I actually found while preparing for this, I dug this up. Not sure if you remember this.
Oh yes, yes.
The Boom So, and then also this. I got this. I still haven't figured out what it is though.
Oh, you put it in your freezer, and then you set your little can inside of it, and it's supposed to be cold.
Okay, I've never put this in the freezer. I guess I missed that part of it.
Yeah.
Okay. So these are my reminiscences from Social Boom. And again, so also you've networked with a lot of people. I think your core group of people you invited to your Social Boom conference. Subi Zimmerman, Viveka von Rosen. There's a lot of people from the UK. So as far as networking, how have you found your position as an influencer to connect with other influencers?
Well, I've been really blessed in the opportunities to speak at conferences where other people are coming to speak too, and connecting and finding commonality, and just understanding that we can actually form friendships and relationships even in the online space and have never met each other. I mean, a lot of people that I am connected to, if you call us influencers, I have physically met, just through the opportunity of speaking at events, and, in some cases they're speaking there too. We get a chance to have dinner or, a glass of wine or, whatever. So from that perspective, a lot of my relationships have, I've physically met people, but there's others where I've never met people, but that I would certainly count as a deeper relationship, friendship. And that's one of the things about social media. It gives you the opportunity to find like-minded people. And when I started my Marketing That Grows Your Business show, one of the things that I did when I first started was just make a list of all the people I know. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you don't really realize how many people you hate to say accumulated over the years, but accumulated, like you really, you just don't understand. You don't realize how many people until you sit down and start writing a list. So I do know a lot of people that are amazing, and most of us don't view ourselves as influencers. We just, we're just people like everybody else. We just had an opportunity to, maybe in some cases we've built big social media followings, or, maybe we have jobs in, places where like Facebook or, wherever. So we've just been blessed, but it doesn't mean that, we view ourselves as, hotty toddy, or, even would label ourselves as an influencer. It seems weird sometimes, honestly, when somebody runs up to you in an airport and says, "Hey, are you Kim?" I'm like, "Yeah." So it's, it was purely accidental. It's just been a byproduct of something that I kind of stumbled into and built and have loved helping other people step into their possibles.
So we titled the show "How to Become a Influencer" or Power Influencer, and I think the main thing, like I said, you probably answer as well, is showing up consistently with a good message of value, as opposed to as a salesperson hammering people over the head with "buy my things."
Well, I think the number one thing that I'd like to share with people that are interested in the concept. So right now, we're all influencers. I want everybody to hear that. We are all influencers. If we go to a restaurant or a movie and we like it, we're going to tell somebody about it. We might tell our friend or our coworkers or, our family, whatever. And that's a way of sharing our influence. It's one of those things that we we just naturally do, but we don't always assign the word influence to it. But people are influenced by the way, things that we tell them and share with them. Likewise, you are, right? So, and influence comes in a lot of different ways. Today, the way social media is operating is it doesn't take a large community to be what's called a micro influencer, or even nano influencers. And that's just people that have very small communities, but they're very connected communities. And the reason those communities are very connected is because the person who's kind of the lead, if you want to call them an influencer, they're very committed to their community. They wake up every day and they approach what they do and what they bring to the table with a servant-based heart. And they think about the people that they're here to assist, help, serve, whatever word you want to, you want to bring to whatever word you want to use. And so those communities, in my opinion, are even more powerful in some cases than large communities like mine, because the connection is tighter. They don't have as many people to, talk to on a daily basis, or, try to serve on a daily basis. So the one-on-one conversations can be deeper. The connections can be deeper, and the people are, if you have a small community of 500 people on Facebook, for example, and you interact with those people consistently all the time, and you say, hey, I just found this great tool. I want you to check it out. Well, guess what? Like 75% of them are going to go check that tool out, versus my community. And I've got, 1.5 million people. And if I put out a new tool, a fraction of those people are going to be paying attention. And therefore only a fraction of those people are going to actually take some action. So those smaller, tighter knit communities are so, so impactful. And that's where I started. By the way, we all start. Doesn't matter what size your community is today. If it's large, if it's medium sized, if it's small, every influencer in the world started out small. And so focus on, starting and serving and loving up those core people, and they'll be ambassadors for you. I mean, it doesn't take a large community these days to do amazing things.
Great answer. And when I sent out the email blast, I was basically, opening title was everybody's an influencer, but is everybody a power influencer? And
I would say, even those small, tight-knit communities, those are power influencers. Yes. I mean, there's categories of ways that people kind of approach a power influencer or an influencer. There's micro, which is, or nano, even before that, nano, micro, and the kind of the micro is a bigger influencer, somebody with a large social media community. But like I say, those smaller communities are incredibly powerful, and a lot of brands are trying to attract and specifically go after those smaller communities, because they're seeing bigger return because of the connection, of the smaller communities versus, some of the larger ones. Like you've got, if you're, let's see.
I'll give you one. So if you're a filmmaker, you have a really tight niche, and you're going into a specific people where maybe there's only 1,000 or 2,000 people you can interest in, or maybe 100,000 people out of the millions of people out there. If you just find yourself as a specific niche, as opposed to going too broad, you have a more dedicated audience.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a Kardashian, where they're charging, $1 million for a post on Instagram. Right. But again, what kind of return is that actually getting for those brands? And that's, like I say, I think that's one of the things that, you just, if you're wanting to really monetize your online presence, don't stress over the numbers. Stress over the connection. Stress, and I say stress lightly. I don't mean stress, but focus. Maybe focus is a better way of saying it. Is really focus on showing up consistently, bringing it. Bringing your best self and serving that community that you're building, and it will that's exactly what I did. And then it just has built. It's, over time, more people have been attracted to my community. Some have left, and that's okay. You're not here to serve everyone. But you have to start at that baseline level and be consistent, show up consistently, talk with people, not at people, listen more than you talk, and you will be amazed at what will happen.
Excellent. And then Kara's got a comment about, I got caught up in the, I'll just do that as well, which is basically, I'll just jump on the latest trend or the latest, well, this is new, like TikTok. Okay, well, my audience is on TikTok, but everybody's saying I should be on TikTok. Do you recommend, and I know you're on multiple platforms. Your main platforms are Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, but you're also on YouTube and other platforms. You're doing live.
Yes. So my current strategy, something I'm working on right now, is to really focus in on social platforms that are going to give me search capability, meaning I'm going to be able to be found on platforms, these social platforms, and not be reliant on the community that I've built on those platforms. So that would be YouTube. And Pinterest. Pinterest is my number one social platform. It just, for traffic purposes, it just bypassed Twitter, interestingly enough, for me. So those are two places that I'm really we're working on strategies right now, because it doesn't matter how many followers I have on Pinterest or how many followers I have on YouTube. Those platforms are are driven in large part by search, and which means my content can be seen, and ultimately maybe the community will grow because of that. And I don't have to worry so much about physically building my follower base in those places, because I'll have a natural born traffic source. So I'm really keying in on those two platforms personally. LinkedIn as well, because I think there's a lot of value on LinkedIn. All the social platforms, frankly, you could focus on one, and I highly recommend you need to take a look and an honest look at yourself, your time, and your resources. When I say I'm focusing in on these other platforms, it's because I have a team and I can do more than I've ever been able to do before. But if you're just you're just a solopreneur right now, or maybe a couple people that you have help to help you, you can't do it all. And so you have to decide, where's the biggest business value for you? What kind of resources do you have to attack that with? And then focus there. If a lot of people kind of jumped on the TikTok bandwagon, and they're like, oh, this is the latest and greatest thing. And it was. In fact, I really got sucked down the rabbit hole a little bit with just watching the content on TikTok, but now we've got Instagram Reels is coming out. It's going to be a huge hit, in my opinion, I think, to TikTok, simply because of the fact that, again, Instagram is a very established, robust platform where they're integrating a TikTok functionality, right? So it's again, though, do you have the bandwidth to create content for another platform? You have to look at that, and it may not be where you need to focus right now. If you can really just key in on one or two platforms, do those well, they'll bring all the leads and sales you need.
I think you kind of alluded to not owning Facebook. I'm assuming I'm stalking it, but you do own your list.
You do.
Do you want? We have a few minutes if you want to stick around, because usually we try to keep the show to half an hour. But if you want to stick around a little bit longer to answer that question, because I think it's an important question: how do you build a list, and why is your email list important?
So yes, so I feel like there's two things that are super.
Wrong button. Sorry. Live video.
Yeah, the joys of. But there's two core things that I really want to key in here on as it relates to this question. We don't own our social platforms. We don't own the fans or the followers there. The two things that are super critical to us as business owners, our home, which is our website, we own that. You know, we're not at the algorithm of Facebook's whim on our blog or our website. So we own, that's home base, and everything should come back to home base. All the traffic should come back to home base. Everything, you know, should be focused there because that's where you monetize. But the thing that I really want you guys to understand, and if you leave today with just this one thing, then I hope that you will really hear me when I say this. The majority of your sales are going to come from your list. They don't come from posting on social media. If you're not list building, you are doing it wrong. I'm just going to tough love there. But seriously, you need to be building a list of your potential buyers or a list of buyers. So currently I have two strategies that I'm running in order to get more people onto my list. One is the traditional freebie, like, you know, for example, what it could be anything like here's 31 social media post ideas kind of thing, right? Where there's a calendar and there's content ideas, and people are willing to trade their email address for that. That's one of my top performing opt-ins right now. And that's, again, one strategy. And that's a pretty common strategy where you have something that's value-based that people will trade their email for. That's what I call an ethical bribe, where you're like, here's this, if you'll just give me your email address. And so that works, absolutely. People don't want to join a newsletter. They want something value-based and that they're willing to trade their email for. So set that to the side as one strategy. Another strategy that I've been doing very effectively for 2020 is instead of building a list of freebie seekers, I've been building a list of buyers with what I call a mini offer, something that's low cost. And the reason that I have been focused in on this is, one, because getting people to spend their first dollar is the toughest. But people now, I think some people, not all, I'm not saying the freebies doesn't still work, because it absolutely does. But I think a lot of people are willing to spend a little bit of money on something that they feel solves one problem for them. And they're kind of over the free stuff. Like, hey, yeah, okay, I'm not sure I'm going to get enough value out of that free thing. I'm okay with spending $27 for something that I feel like is really going to solve my problem. So I've been really focused in on those, what I call mini offers. Like, quick example, I did a workshop on that was 9 ways to optimize your LinkedIn profile. It solved one problem, which was, you know, optimizing your LinkedIn profile. Like, what's the steps? What do you have to key in on? And I charged $27 for that workshop. And there was some offer bumps, you know, some templates and some things that went on that went with it, that was essentially a way to get my cart value up. But then I started building a list of buyers. And once people have spent money with you, even a little bit of money, people are like, that was so great. What else does she have? So then they start asking questions on what other courses do you have? What other things do you have that I can purchase? And that has been really, really beneficial. So freebie is definitely a way to build your list, and potentially something low cost that gets people to spend their first dollar with you. But regardless, now you have their email address and you can market to them until they say they don't want to hear from you again.
Yep. I think I'm on 2 of your mailing lists already on 2 different emails. And I'm hesitant to unsubscribe, because then I feel like they're taking me off all your lists. So but I love your content, because you're not only offering the blog content, but you're also sending me an email saying, here's my blog content, so I can actually follow up in case I forget to visit your blog.
Yeah. And we do a mix of, we're very focused on making sure we deliver content value to our list.
Yep.
And we're actually in the process of, coming up with a more relational, I call it relationship building, when it comes to communicating with the list, because you get lazy over time. I'll just own that. Some people have been on my list for years. I would speculate Bruce has been on my list for years. And after a while, it just gets stale. So we're looking at how do we juice it up. jazz it up? How do we give more value? How do we show up? And so we're coming up with some strategies right now that are, more relationship based, and not so like, here's a new blog post, or here's something we are selling. How do we really get people to engage back with us using the list?
Excellent. So we got some thanks here. Thanks for the freebies. Thanks.
Awesome.
So again, it's been great. Actually, I wanted to play one more clip. And I know it's always, we talked about, we didn't really talk about testimonials and working with people. But I remember when we actually had a chance to work with you, I leveraged this to at least 3 new clients.
We met Bruce when we needed a videographer at Social Boom. I needed some additional videos shot for my business. We've spent the entire day today shooting videos, and Bruce made it just so seamless, very easy. And I was able to focus on my business while he did what he excels at, which is video production.
So, and again, I think asking for that, the testimony from clients, asking that from your followers, those who do hire you, is another step with building your social media and your social community.
Definitely agree. I think that's one of the things we tend to forget to do, because and sometimes it's uncomfortable. But I would suggest, if you are going to ask for those testimonials, to ask for it in a way that, what was the result of it? So that other people can say, oh, like, I learned this, or I learned that, or this. Sometimes it's feelings as well. People buy based on emotion. So what result did they get from working with you or purchasing something from you? And if it's results based, more people are likely to really key in on that testimonial and say, oh, wow, they had a really good experience. I want that experience.
And then Jonathan says, you do look younger now. You did 5 years ago.
Thank you, Jonathan. You're my new best friend.
I think it's the glasses. The glasses really make that statement.
They had the wrinkles a little bit. That's what it is.
There you go. So again, how to find you? You're on Kim Garst, and across all platforms, you're Kim Garst. I think that's also an important factor. Is if you're on multiple platforms, use the same handle and the same profile name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And you can find me. Just Google me. You can find me. If you just Google my name or go to kimgarst.com, you should be able to connect with me pretty much on any of the social platforms. Your social platform of choice.
Excellent. So great. I think, is there anything else you wanted to add to that?
No, I just would just like to say I really appreciated it. I loved the questions that we got. So thank you guys for being here and asking questions.
Great. And here's another call to action. Subscribe and follow here on BSVPTV. We're on YouTube, Facebook, and actually we're streaming this to Periscope as well. So it runs full circle. We started off on Periscope, and here we are still on Periscope.
Yeah, I some of my biggest views are on Periscope to this day. So that's kind of a fascinating. If people think Periscope's dead, it is absolutely not dead. So
great. Well, thank you. Let me end with this. One last thing is for future episodes. There we go. Subscribe and follow us. Actually, I'll include a couple clips from Kim, so you can follow Kim there, and you can follow us there. So great. Thank you again for tuning in. And